When choosing the right Camino for you, these features cannot be overlooked. History, nature, amenities, and obviously food, because no Camino is complete without that. And today we're gonna dive into Camino Primitivo, which, surprise, surprise, it has it all. History. The very first Camino walked by kings and pilgrims alike. Nature. Breathtaking mountains, mystical forests, and untamed beauty. Spirit. A path of solitude, reflection, and deep transformation. Amenities. Just enough to support you without taking away the adventure. So we walked Camino Primitivo many years before, and the last year we walk it again. So now we're here to tell you what to expect from this Camino, how to prepare, what accommodations, food, route, in general, all you wish to know before you actually start to walk this Camino. Hi, I'm Ricky from Caminotellers, and this is Camino Primitivo Guide. So if you're thinking of walking the primitive way or Camino Primitivo, let us tell you what convinced us to walk the Camino and millions, literally millions of other pilgrims to walk that path. And first of all, Camino de Santiago started in Oviedo. Back in the 9th century, King Alfonso II of Asturias was the first recorded pilgrim to walk to Santiago de Compostela. Why? Because news had spread that the remains of St. James the Apostle had been discovered. At that time, Oviedo was the capital of the Kingdom of Asturias, making it the political and religious heart of Christian Spain. Before setting off to Santiago, Alfonso II prayed in the Cathedral of San Salvador in Oviedo, which still stands today, guarding some of the most sacred relics of Christianity. And this is the Cathedral of Oviedo, the first important starting point of this pilgrimage. The Cathedral of San Salvador in Oviedo was built in 8th century, and it was expanded in the 9th century under our friend, the King Alfonso II, the same king who walked the first Camino. That means that Cathedral de Oviedo predates the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela. And it was so important in the medieval times that there was actually a saying which says, "Quien va a Santiago no a Salvador, va al criado, deja el Señor." Who goes to the Santiago and not to the Savior, visits the servant and forgets the Lord. And the fun fact, the Cathedral of Oviedo houses the Holy Chests, said to contain the relics of the True Cross. These relics made Oviedo a pilgrimage site in itself long before Santiago de Compostela rose to prominence. But the history doesn't stop in Oviedo. As you walk the Camino Primitivo, you pass through towns and villages steeped in the medieval heritage, from ancient Roman roads to medieval monasteries. One of the biggest highlights, Lugo. Built in the 3rd century, Lugo Roman walls still stand intact, stretching over 2 kilometers around the city. Walking on the top of these walls is like stepping back into time. Just imagine, you've watched over the city for over 1,700 years. But Lugo isn't just about the past. It's also one of the best stops for food essentials, especially if you love the Galician cuisine. But more of that later. So from the capital of the first Camino and the ancient Roman cities, the Camino Primitivo, it's a walk through the history of Camino de Santiago and entire Spain. And we would love to hear from you. Are you actually planning to walk the primitive way, or you walked it? What is your reference to that Camino? Let us know in the comment, and if you find it useful, give it a like to this video and subscribe to this channel. It's absolutely for free and helps us a lot to build a beautiful Camino community. Another good reason we've chosen the Camino Primitivo from any other Caminos? Nature. That's probably most natural and untouched of all the Camino routes. Thanks to its geography, it takes you through the two of the greatest and most scenic regions in Spain, starting with Asturias and leading to the Galicia. Forests, rivers, waterfalls, it's all there. On the first day already, once you cross the busy Oviedo town, you're heading into the wilderness. There's another 200 kilometers of greenery waiting for you to be discovered. That's a part of its magic. No endless asphalt roads, no urban sprawls, just rolling hills, pine forests, misty mountains, ridges, and ancient trails worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. And just on the third day, you will find yourself next to the really prominent waterfall in the middle of the forest. Wow! Then also walking through the pine trees and crossing endless meadows covered in the morning mist. The terrain is integrably varied. One moment you're on a soft dirt path and the next you're climbing the rocky ridge and the views that stretch for miles. But let's talk about rain. With all of the lush greenery comes one big trade-off, the weather. And when it rains, which it does a lot, the natural trains turn into the mud baths and puddles the size of small lakes. Is that a drawback? Not really, we saw it as a part of the adventure. But it means that the good preparation makes the big difference. So weather, what to expect and how to prepare. The lushy greenery of the Primitivo comes with a price, unpredictable weather. If you're picturing sunny Spanish landscapes, think again. Summer, from June to August, it's warm but not so hot thanks to the altitude. However, the rain showers can still hit unexpectedly. Autumn, from September to November, beautiful golden landscapes but frequent rain and fog can make some sections slippery. Winter, from December to February, not recommended unless you love extreme adventure. Snow and ice can make even Los Hospitales impassable. And the spring, from March to May, wildflowers and the mild temperatures, but expect muddy terrains, and the rain is a fact of life on the Primitivo, so expect it the same as in Asturias, the same in Galicia. That's why we have to think about the correct equipment, like for example shoes. What worked for us? Shoes with a solid grip. Trust us, some of those steep ascents, like Hospitales for example, all going down from Grandas de Salime, and the even steeper descents can be brutal in wet conditions. Trekking poles, absolute lifesaver, especially on those slippery downhills. A solid rain poncho, not just for keeping dry but also for keeping warm when the wind kicks in. So if you're drawn to the more of a natural Camino and you don't mind being surrounded by mountains, climbing steep hills and even going steep descents, probably this is the Camino for you. Amenities and accommodations on Camino Primitivo. You see, one of those things that we often hear about the Camino Primitivo is that it's too remote and there is no enough accommodations. But after walking the Camino Primitivo twice, we can tell you something absolutely different. You won't be sleeping under the stars unless you want to. While it's true that the Primitivo is wilder than the French and Portuguese way, you will still find a solid network of accommodations, food stops and essential services along the route. You just have to plan a little differently. I like the French way, where you can stop pretty much everywhere. The Camino Primitivo has fewer towns and villages, meaning that there are longer gaps between stops. That said, you still have options of albergues, classic budget-friendly options with dormitory-style sleeping and shared facilities. Municipal albergues are the cheapest, but private albergues often have a bit of a more comfort.
Welcome to the home for today. We have the kitchen with nice coffee for the morning, Nesquik.
Come show.
All the goodies.
Like for example what?
The pancakes, cupcakes, Nesquik, cafe, cacao, tea. So many teas. We can do some tea tonight.
And what's inside of the fridge? Wow.
A lot of goodies for us. We have cheese. They left cheese for us.
Super.
Yeah, let's go. I'll show you the room.
So this is like municipal albergue, no?
This is municipal albergue.
So you have a
8
kitchen.
euros per person.
And
Now where is the kitchen? You cannot cook.
the washing machine.
But they said here you have the kitchen. You can cook. Where?
Where can you cook?
Ah, there is a stove, so you can take it. Okay.
Oh.
Now it's clear. It's clear.
And that's for washing.
Yeah. Some Italian are cooking carbonara tonight. I hope I will be invited. Come. this is our room.
Oh,
Where are you staying? There?
probably there.
Okay. And then we are gonna touch hands. I will sleep.
Or maybe feet. Okay,
Okay.
that's the big room. 1, 2, 3, 4. For double 8 people inside. And there is also options of donation-based albergues. You can find maybe in Bodenaya, maybe in Porciles. Just try it. Just try it and you will tell us what you think about those. For us, it's a must. And the hotel and pensions, while not as common as on the French way, there are comfortable mid-range hotels in the large towns like Oviedo, Tineo, Lugo or Melide. Booking ahead, it really depends on the time of the year you go, because there might be less availability as there's less albergues over there, but for years people walk in without booking and they still can manage. The food, where and what to eat on the Camino Primitivo. Let's be honest, one of the best parts of the Camino is the food, and on the Camino Primitivo you're in for a treat. Asturias, first half of the route, is famous for fabada asturiana, a rich bean stew with chorizo, bloody sausage and pork, perfect for those coldy, rainy days. Cachopo, the double-layered breaded wheel dish stuffed with the ham and cheese.
It's two veal fillets, generously filled with cheese and ham. Let's see.
And the sidra, cider, not just a drink but an experience. Watch the locals pour it from the high above their head and the perfect aeration. And the Galicia, the second part of the route, is the paradise for seafood lovers. From pulpo de la gallega, the octopus with paprika, olive oil and the sea salt, best eaten in Melide, to caldo de gallego and obviously tarta de Santiago, the classic almond cake, perfect with a coffee con leche after the long walk. And the good news, you will find even in the small little villages the bar that serves amazing food. These are the capitals of Spain of really good food. But the bad news is that if you misjudge the hour, probably on midday, just after lunch, they will have it closed. So the good options would be always to have some extra food with you, maybe some almonds, maybe some chocolates, just to keep you for another 5 kilometers of walk. The medical assistance you can find at the pharmacies, probably in nearly every village apart of those mountain ones. But if you for serious medical help, you probably will be better if you go to the bigger cities, like for example Lugo, Oviedo, or maybe even Santiago. Shops and ATMs, not every little village has their supermarket. There might be little shops where you not always can buy things with your credit card, so better get this extra euros with you. And think about especially going into those mountainous side like Ruta de los Hospitales, which there is nothing around. Get yourself some nice and extra snacks for the day. And if you're thinking about transport option, like for example getting the taxi in some of those parts, it could be difficult. So if you have something to do, if you have to go somewhere, think this decision ahead. So our final thoughts about the amenities, that we did not find any problems because we didn't have any major problems. Obviously the places, the albergues are not as popular and not as plenty as on the French way or the Portuguese way, but there's still plenty enough to find yourself a place to stay, nice warm food to eat, and obviously that cup of coffee that is always waiting for you. And the wine too. You see, the Camino for us is never only about the landscapes or food. It's primarily about the energy, the people, the connection you make along the way. And on the Camino Primitivo, there is something special about that. Unlike the French way, which is full of people, you can call it even overcrowded in some places, Camino Primitivo attracts a totally different crowd. It's smaller, more personal. The groups that are making that are only with few people only, or you have a long time to actually walk on your own. So it really feels more like a shared adventure, not just a route. I remember we met people from all over the world, but the predominant feeling that we have was the introspective aspect of it. We shared the moments of depth and connection and silence, and many times walking together with others. The people who choose to walk Primitivo, they not only in for the silence, for the personal being with themselves, but also the deeper connection with to nature, which speaks only one language: silence. And I remember years ago we had this small little group, maybe 5, 6 of us, who got from the beginning till the end, till Santiago, and it really felt like this family. The locals. The Camino Primitivo passes through the tiny villages and remote mountains, hamlets, where locals still see pilgrims as a part of their history, not just passing tourists. In some towns you'll be greeted with a warm "Buen Camino" by people who have seen pilgrims walk in these paths their entire lives. We had locals offer foods, give directions, and even share the stories of what they do in here, how are they, and how their families been connected to Camino for generations. One of the most memorable experiences are the Hospitalers sharing the community dinner, preparing them with us, and giving the space to pilgrims to share their experience, stories and problems, and many times get the different view on the Camino that one has from someone who already been there for years. So the Camino Primitivo has its perfect balance between the quiet solitude and the moments of shared joy. And there are many places of silence, like Ruta de los Hospitales, the Hospitales route. When walking through these ancient paths where medieval pilgrims once stayed, feels like stepping back into nature. No noise, no distraction, just wind, mountains and your thoughts. Dense Asturian forests. Some sections are so remote that you won't see another person for hours. Just the sound of birds, your footsteps, and the occasional cobble in the distance. But as the places of silence, there are also the places of celebration like Lugo, a historic city but also a great place to enjoy tapas, wine and lively atmosphere before heading into the last stretch of Camino de Santiago. And the mythical Melide, when the pulpo de gallega is there waiting for you to be tried and enjoyed in the big company. And by the time you reach Santiago, you already form the family with those few who actually walk this path. It's something in the Camino itself that through the struggle and through the similar stories and experiences, maybe even expectations, unite and make you participants in someone else's journey and at the same time enriching also yours. It hasn't been all about getting to Santiago, it wasn't even about the journey, but maybe it was just about the company. And if you want to take your inner Camino experience to a different level, we cannot be more happy to recommend you our Transformation of the Journey Within journal. This is actually the new version, which is a bit bigger than the pocket size. Famous, I would even call it iconic pocket size so far. This one allows you to actually write more about your adventure. But these are not only the blank pages, these are the day-by-day concepts, like this one in particular, the acceptance, which will guide you through the Camino de Santiago process. I recognize that sometimes it's not as easy to grab an entire significance of Camino de Santiago from the first day. That's why 2 years ago already we put together our experience through many different Caminos all over the world into that special journal. With the guiding, which will take you not only in the preparation process for the Camino, but also on the Camino itself with subjects like gratitude, surrender, or restless mind, will guide you through those more difficult parts, and maybe the motivation is not gonna be as favorish as on the first day. Get your journal now on Amazon. With one click, it can be delivered on your doorstep, or you can get it in many different bookstores on the Camino itself. Make the best out of your inner Camino today. Let's just be honest, the Camino is not the easiest Camino. You really have to do your kilometers before. You will have to find your good shoes, you have to adjust the backpack the correct way. But this effort, this previous effort really pays back. We don't learn only from the beauty, haha, hihi, and all the positive experiences. We also, and maybe even especially, learn through tears, sweat, and pain. And some of those stages on the Camino de Santiago, the primitive way, can be difficult. So if you're looking for a Camino with a history, the original, the first Camino route walked by kings, a still true natural experience walking through those mountains, forests and waterfalls, or maybe a challenge when you're looking for something physically demanding but equally rewarding, or something more personal, fewer crowds but more personal connection, then the Camino Primitivo might be just for you. Because the Camino Primitivo might not be the easiest Camino, but definitely it's one of the most rewarding ones. Buen camino, Ultreya.